All right, welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs to professionals. I'm your host, Ezra Brown, and without further ado, I want to let you introduce you to my guest.
Hey, Mark Jordan. I'm pastor at Hope Church in Dallas, Georgia, 1970 Charles Hardy Parkway, placeofhope.org. But I also work with another organization, nonprofit called C-Suite for Christ. And our whole job and mission from the church to the nonprofit is to help make the presence and power of God real in people's lives as well as in our community.
Man, it's awesome what you do. I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. First and foremost, before we even start, thank you so much for coming.
Man, I'm delighted. Excited to be
awesome.
here.
It's awesome, man. You can feel the joy in the room with this guy sitting right to my right. But no, kind of this is what we ask everybody is give me a story. Kind of what's your walk of life been to get you where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, so we were not brought up in church necessarily. My mom was born and raised in Cartersville,
Okay.
And so I went to Sam Jones Church up there a couple times for vacation Bible school, Sunday school. But it wasn't until I was in middle school when we went to church for the first time. My great-grandmother passed away, and we went to church there. And it turned out that the pastor, UGA grad, knew my parents at University of Georgia.
Okay, that's
and
awesome.
so we started going to church there, and I've hardly missed a Sunday ever since. I was probably 13, 14 years old then. Got involved in the youth group, working in the church, volunteering, just having a blast, making trouble. Not too much trouble, but but it was so much fun. And then between my 8th and 9th grade year, the pastor of the church suddenly died.
Okay.
And we were in his memorial service, and I just felt God's presence on my heart and in my soul, telling me that he wanted me to be one of those to help bring some hope and peace to people who were struggling with grief or whatever else. It was really grief in that time. And so about 14 years old forward, I really started thinking about how is God going to use me in the world. And I tried all kinds of different things. I think I had like 11 majors in college with Georgia State University. I think I had like 11 majors. Finally settled on social psychology because I love the whole idea of culture and how people interact in groups and things like that. And then I graduated from Georgia State, went to Emory University and got a master's degree in theology. I started working in churches there, starting with youth ministry, and then just gradually moving into pastoring and preaching. And a big part of my heart, in addition to the work in the church, has to do with the way that I see culture and I see community, especially some of the cultural rot that's all around us right now.
Oh, yeah.
But I also went and got a doctorate degree in counseling, Christian counseling, so that I can help people who are dealing with things like addiction and grief and despair, and to let them know that there's hope for them.
That's
and
awesome.
so when I finally made it to Hope Church, it just felt like I just felt like it was music to my soul, because it's all about trying to help people find hope in a world that is just corrupt and backwards right now. Everything just feels and seems upside down.
Yes.
And so my life really is about trying to help people find that presence and power of God and connect it to their daily life. And I love things like music and movies and sports. And I try to use those types of avenues to connect with people, let them know the gospel is real because God is real. He loves us and has a purpose for our lives.
1,000%, man, and that is one thing that we need more in this day and age is more Word of God. They try to hide it from us in the media. They try to put the players and all these athletes, big wigs that want to put God out there. They try to hide it from us, and put the other things about whatever else is going on, social issues or anything else. That's not as meaningful to bring warmth to your heart, man. We appreciate what you do very much, and he also works at a very beautiful spot, is where he's preaching at currently. It's Hope Church in Dallas. But
you know a little bit about that,
right? But what do you what would you say when you first started in ministry? What was your your go-to pillar that you knew you could lean on, that you were really good at it all the time? Like you didn't have to work on it. You didn't really formulate it. It's been worked on obviously now through the time of crafting your forging your craft, but. What's been that one thing that's always been your lean on pillar?
Music.
Really?
Yeah, music. Play guitar, play bass, a little bit of percussion. I think about there's a verse in Revelation where Jesus says, "You neglected your first love." And for me, that first love is music. It's playing that guitar. I just feel like God speaks into my life. In fact, I came up with this little saying that music is how God penetrates the scar tissue of the soul.
Man.
And so, particularly when I was a youth pastor, I mean, it was playing guitar. I'm never really much of a songwriter, but playing guitar, singing, teaching music to kids. And then in the first church where I was just all by myself, staff meeting was me and a cup of coffee. But I led worship with my guitar. That was a big change for them. And that music and how God speaks to me through music, and how, like I said, music penetrates the scar tissue of the soul, helps open up the whole power and meaning of the gospel, not just in the mind, but also in the soul. And so I love that. And as we finally hired worship leaders who do a whole lot better job than I ever could, I really then started gravitating toward movies.
Okay.
And I think the very first movie I ever saw was the 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman movie, and the tagline was "You'll believe a man can fly," and that movie has just set me on fire ever since. So quite frequently, I try to find movie clips, illustrations, stories out of film because it's like the modern day parable.
For sure.
And God's truth or all truth is God's truth, and it shines through in those things. And there are certain clips and scenes in movies, whether it was intentional or not, it just screams truth. It screams meaning. It screams hope. And so every now and then I pull out a clip from a movie and use it in my preaching and teaching. And usually every summer I do a whole month-long series. I call it Hope at the Movies, where we pull out some of those clips. And ultimately what I want people to see when I talk about connecting God's presence and power in daily life, I want them to watch a movie in the theater or something or at home and say, oh, that reminds me of that Bible verse. That reminds me of something that Jesus did or something said. And so that's really what I try to do, bring the gospel and the hope of religion to real life stuff.
And I love that because you're using nowadays kind of vices that people have, and turning them into a positive as to as a film, because people do relate to things like that. If you put relatable things in front of people, they'll start making lights turn on, and they're like, wait. Yeah, this is what he's been talking about. Yeah, it's like, yes, exactly. Yeah. And then music, man, being you said the scar tissue.
Music penetrates the scar tissue in the soul.
That right there, that really does hit, because it doesn't matter what genre of music you're listening to. Yeah. It can penetrate something that's triggered something, or put you in that good mood, put you in that bad mood. Any of the mood swings you could have, music can do to you for sure. And same thing with the movies. And I didn't even think about it in that sense, but that is definitely, both of those are super relatable aspects to people. Guys, this guy's got a good thing going on.
Oh,
but no. And then what you kind of do? What wasn't that you didn't do very well at the beginning?
Yeah, I think leadership is always one of those things you have to learn some hard lessons in terms of relating to people. I'm someone who I want to be likable. I want to be liked. A people pleaser,
right?
And I think that's one of the things that a lot of folks who are in that type of work, nonprofit type work, there's a constant struggle between being a people pleaser and trying to attract people from a personality point of view, but also holding folks accountable, doing the right thing. And something else I've seen a lot in the world right now is we want people to affirm who we are, what we believe. There's nothing wrong inherently with that, but it can really become a problem if people are looking to be affirmed in things that really should not be affirmed.
No matter what you wear, how you're dressed, what you drive, where you live. Nobody cares about that.
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
Care about what's in here.
And so ultimately what it boils down to is truth. And, truth can be hard sometimes. There's that old saying, the truth hurts. But Jesus also said the truth sets you free.
It dang sure does.
And so the struggle that I feel, that tension, is the whole people-pleasing nature versus knowing the truth and allowing the truth to penetrate and to set people free. And so those are, I think, the biggest lesson I've learned over 20-something years of ministry and being involved in churches and being in the community is there's some people who just want to be affirmed in the way that they're living, even if it's wrong. They just want to be affirmed, because
100%.
none of us want that discipline, right? But discipline's about how we are being moved forward in the future to be better than we could be on our own. And it's the truth that allows that to happen.
And that's awesome. That is awesome. So, and with that, kind of saying, as a people pleaser, it's almost like an imposter syndrome. It goes, and I feel like that goes into kind of business. It goes into almost all facets of life.
Every fact.
So as me coming out of college, in May, and starting in sales, and I'm around, I'm the youngest person in every event I walk into. You know what I mean? I'm 15 years younger than the next person closest to me. And I walk in, and it's almost that imposter syndrome. When I first started to now, it's, I get comfortable. I'm walking around, shaking hands, talking to everybody. But before, it is that way, and everybody can relate to that as it's, as it goes to Christ, or it goes to real world problems in business, But it's all comes back full circle to one common ground. And I can very much appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. And what the key in that is integrity.
Yeah.
To make sure that your beliefs and your behavior match.
Yeah.
But also to be who you are, regardless if anybody's looking. And so you think about integrity and living in the truth. That's what's critically important. And people can sniff that out.
For sure, right? Every time.
They can sniff out the imposters.
Yes, 1,000%. And that is, man, me and me and my BNI mentor talked about that this morning.
Is that right?
Because he was saying, because I pace a lot when I'm giddy. You know, I'm ADHD through the roof. Like it never been medicated for it, never will because I don't believe in it. But he was like, man, when you're up here speaking, he's like, man, your speech is great every time. He's like, but you pace. He's like, stand there, project yourself. You're 6'4", man, just project. And I was like, man, that's one of the best things that anybody could have told me, you know. But some people don't want to take that criticism or don't want to take that because they feel like they're affirmed to believe that they're the top of the top, from the cream of the crop, you know, whatever. We're not all perfect. At the end of the day, you know, and I haven't been doing it for 15 years or 20 years like this guy's been doing. Dr. Fromm, I very much appreciate you. I know you'll be watching. But what's it called? If without, you know, things like that, we can't grow, you know. And then it's very important, especially for me as being a young in business, is they're all been here, been successful. So it's super awesome to hear, you know, them constructively criticize you because they want you to do good. It's not they're going, hey, you got to do this. You did it. No, it's everybody wants you to be the best version of yourself, and people got to understand that.
Yeah, and just that illustration you're talking about, because I've had to wrestle with it some too. I'm a little hyperactive.
Yeah.
Specifically when I get excited and I'm talking, I mean, I'm like a ping pong ball on the stage, right? And I've had people say, you know, hey, your messages are great, but your movement is distracting. And so, you know, I started sitting down some and felt a little guilty about it. People was like, are you sick or something? Did you get hurt? Like, you know, no, I had to remember back in the Old Testament times, rabbis would sit down to teach. And it's amazing when you just focus on, okay, you know, just channel it here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, yeah, obviously, you know what my name is.
Yeah.
You know where it's from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep. Could you take a guess out of that book of Ezra what my favorite verse is? I have it tattooed on my back.
Oh, nah, I didn't want to take a stab.
Oh, man. Ezra 10:4. Rise up, this matter is in your hands. We will support you, so take courage and do it. Oh. And I've had that on me since I was like 15 years old. My parents always told them, I said, as soon as I get 15, y'all are just going to sign for this tattoo. And they're like, that's fine as long as you know what you want. And I'd wanted it since I was like probably 10 or 11 years old. One of my favorite baseball players, he was actually one of my teammates' older brothers. He had it in his Instagram bio when I was a kid, and I was like, I'd never looked at the book enough, you know, to like really go in depth on my own book, you know, in the Bible. But I went and looked at it, and I was like, man, that's a powerful quote. So then I got it, and I was like, man, that's awesome, man. It's my name too. So it made it even better. I was like, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So I've walked around, and it's kind of been my motto for a long time. Because if you ain't got courage, you ain't gonna be able to do anything.
Man,
you know,
courage is it. Yeah,
courage turns into confidence.
It does. And one of the scariest verses in the Bible comes out of Revelation, where it talks about cowards are the first one that inherit eternal, you know, damnation. It's okay. God wants us to be courageous, and in fact, He commands it. Take courage. And it's not based on what we have in us, unless we have God within us.
Right.
And then it's God's courage that strengthens our spine and steels our spirit.
Right. And kind of, what was your hardest part about getting up and preaching in front of a group of people the first time, in front of your congregation? What was what was it like the first time? Kind of walk us through that.
Oh. Like the first time, it was the cute girl at the congregation. You know, she looking at me as my zipper, you know, make sure my fly's up, and you know all that stuff. Do I look cool? Do I look like a nerd? Whatever. Yeah. I hate to say it, but I mean,
but that's real. That's real life, though.
That's real life,
and
man.
people can relate to that.
That's real life. That's really what it was. And I was never one of those that wanted to, you know, pretend that your audience or your congregation's in their underwear, they're naked or whatever. That would be way too distracting, you know, especially for a young guy. But,
yeah, right.
But what it really turned into for me was recognizing that there are people who've given up their Sunday morning. I mean, they could be out on the lake, they could be out on the golf course,
be in the bed asleep,
in the bed, breakfast in bed or whatever, and they're coming and they're looking for hope.
Yeah, for sure.
They're looking for meaning, and to know that there's someone out there who maybe the message that God has given me to deliver, their life can be completely and radically transformed. And it's kind of funny to think about that, because this past Sunday, and I don't really get anxious anymore.
Yeah. Been doing it a little too long.
Yeah.
Which means if you get a little bit anxious, it means you care.
That's right. So yeah, that's what I'm getting at. This past Sunday, I started a series on forgiveness, and I was scared. Like I had not been scared in 20 years, probably.
Really?
And so I get up on the platform, and I just look at the folks. I say, y'all know, I am more anxious and nervous today than I can remember. And the only thing I can think of is that God is telling me to get out of the way, because there's somebody in here who needs to hear this message, and it needs to come from God and not from Mark.
Right.
And so thinking about leadership lessons, that's one of those things that I can think back to times in my younger ministry, early ministry, younger life, where I did make it about me.
Right.
I was more in that performance art type thing, and I think about where I am now, and just of course how much my family loves Hope Church and what we're doing there. It's get out of the way because God's gonna say something.
It'll come through you.
It'll come through us, and that's exactly the way it's got to be. And so I look at that from just this past Sunday, talking about forgiveness, what it is, what it's not, and realizing how frequently do we have to get out of the way to set our ego aside, but also be courageous enough to allow God to speak to us, because we talk about truth setting us free. We may be compelled or called to say something that might make us feel uncomfortable, but it may be the very message somebody needs to hear.
Somebody else needed to say, yeah, exactly, 1,000%. It makes them relate to something. Like, wait, they're human too? Like, what? Like, we're all human. We all go through a lot of us go through the same things, you know? Day to day, it's almost the same things. You got your stress, your work stress, or your school stress, or your family stress, whatever's going on, your financial stress, whatever you have going on day to day. Everybody goes through it, and that's one thing, you know, and God is that pillar that people can always lean on because he's always there. You know, he's there when you're hurt, sick, by yourself, with people. If you got the abundance, thousands, if you're one of those people that's in front of thousands all the time, he's there with you. And, you know, as long as you accept him in your life, and he's still going to be there. But and if you're at the bottom of the bottom, there he's always going to be there, man. And that's one thing about you that I can very much appreciate. You're very authentic. Thanks, you're very authentic, and that's, you know, and nowadays ministry time, I don't want to say it this way, but it's hard to find. Yeah. It's very hard to find authentic people nowadays, you know, especially people that are leading a congregation of people to one common goal, which is amazing.
I appreciate that. I coined a phrase by accident a couple years ago. I called it raw-authenticity.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to be raw sometimes.
For sure.
And to be authentic. And I kind of have this knack where my mind moves faster than my mouth.
Yeah.
And so I was just talking to somebody, and I said, we got to be raw, authentic, you know. Be raw, be authentic, be authentic. And
now that's your saying.
Yeah, that's it. That's a Markism.
I love that. And then,
raw authenticity.
So last thing for you is what, you know, we got the Aloof and Burn the Ship.
Yeah.
You can tell the people.
Yeah, Cortez made it to the New World. Some people were scared. They were afraid about what lay ahead, the intimidation of it. And Cortez said, we're going to burn those ships. We're not going back. We're moving forward.
So what did it feel like for you to burn the ship?
Yeah. Living in it right now. I'm getting chills thinking about it.
Yeah. What did it feel like, though? What was that first initial thought? I know you were a little scared, maybe a little, you know, really excited, really scared. It's a whirlwind of emotions, I know.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it is. So really what it was the first time I really had to burn the ship was back when I was working at Six Flags. I spent about 9-10 years working at Six Flags in the rides department. It was a great job. You know, got paid okay, but I moved up into middle management and learned so many people skills, learned about leadership, integrity, how to hold people accountable, stuff like that. And that's where I also met my beautiful wife, Tiffany. But
he's not trying to shout you out right now.
That's right. But we had a situation where I was afraid to go into the ministry because I was afraid of losing something that was comfortable. And I loved my job at Six Flags. There's still days I think about it.
Right.
I still thinking about running through the ride breakdowns and climbing, you know, ladders and stuff. And I still, there are parts of it where I missed that a lot. And Tiffany identified in me that I was going to forego my call to ministry in order to keep working at Six Flags. And she says, you're not being true to yourself. And she broke up with me. I mean, totally leveled me. I mean,
that's when you knew that was the one.
That's when I knew she was the one. That's right. And so I applied to seminary, got accepted into Emory University Seminary, and started working in a church. And then she came back to me, right? She says she could identify that I was starting to live into be myself, live into who I thought I was going to be, and that was the first time that I really had to burn the ship. You know, I had to leave what was comfortable and even something I loved to do something that I was called for.
Right.
And now I can't imagine loving anything more. I mean, in terms of career oriented. And then just this past year, we had been part of a particular denomination, and our church made a discernment, and we left that denomination. We disaffiliated from it, and we've moved into a different expression of how we feel called to love and live in our community. And that was another one of those circumstances I'm kind of living through now. Every now and then I'll have a little bit of an anxiety attack, like, what did I do? I spent 25 years there, but I'm part of a church that is seeking to burn the ships.
Right.
And we had a meeting this past week, and one of our leaders talked about how we are a new entity, and we can develop a whole new identity. And it's all about meeting people where they are, loving them like Jesus, and then realizing, or helping them realize, that God has a purpose for their lives. It's involving radical transformation. And so my life's being changed, the church is being changed, and I can't wait to see how God works through Hope Church and through our lives to help change Paulding County and the world.
Man, that's so awesome. I appreciate what you do so very much, very, very much, especially coming from a Paulding County family. And before this guy was there, I used to attend that church, which is even crazier of a small world. It's such a small world. But no, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, we're at 1970 Charles Hardy Parkway. If you happen to know where the new Costco is, just about a stone's throw from that. Our website is placeofhope.org. We're on Facebook. We're on X or Twitter or whatever. You can find us online, but I would certainly invite everyone to come be with us. We have our worship services on Sundays at 9:45 a.m., and it's just a great place. We've got great ministries for teenagers, for older children, and one of the best preschools around. And
Awesome.
So our mission at Hope Church is to introduce people to Jesus and fuel their love for him. And I can honestly and sincerely and authentically say we do it every single day.
That's awesome, man.
Some days we do a lot better than others. There's no denying that. But it's awesome to be with a group of people that truly wants to love like God loves us, and to help the world know that there is a plan and a purpose beyond the muck and the mire that we see all around us.
Man, that's awesome. And burn the ship. Thank you so
That's
much.
right, burn the
And,
ships.
hey, guys, this man works and does a beautiful thing and works at a beautiful place. You guys should go see him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ezra. Thanks, everybody.